On October 30, 1961, the Soviet Union tested the largest nuclear device ever created. The Tsar Bomba, as it became known, was 10 times more powerful than all the munitions used during World War II, while its original purpose was to prove to the world, and especially to the United States, that the Soviet Union was capable of producing such devices. It also brought a surprising twist to the future testing of nuclear weapons. Just 16 years before the Tsar Bomba, military researchers conducted the world's first atomic weapons test in Los Alamos, New Mexico, a culmination of the top-secret Manhattan Project. Days later, American President Harry Truman informed Soviet leader Joseph Stalin of his plans to use an atomic weapon on Japan. In early August, American warplanes drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing more than 100,000 Japanese people. Many more would later die from related injuries or illnesses. The devastation helps compel Japan's surrender in World War II and demonstrates the staggering power of a new class of weapons. Intent on not falling behind, the Soviet Union detonated its first nuclear weapon at a test range in Kazakhstan just 5 years after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Most US intelligence assessments at the time had estimated that Moscow was at least 3 years away from obtaining such technology. This would spin the superpowers into a nuclear arms race, with each country vying for a technological edge over the other. As the rivalry heated up, the United States and the Soviet Union raced to develop the next class of weapons, thermonuclear or hydrogen bombs. The devastating potential of these weapons is many times higher than the comparatively tame atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. While atomic bombs use either uranium or plutonium in most cases, hydrogen bombs also need additional isotopes of hydrogen called deuterium and tritium. The reaction causes an explosion that is immensely powerful. Atomic bombs rely on fission, a process of compressing the core of uranium or plutonium, splitting it into parts and therefore releasing a huge amount of energy. On the other hand, hydrogen bombs use not only the energy from fission but also secondary fusion, raising the upper bound of destructive power. At the beginning of the 1960s, the relationship between the Soviet Union and the United States was tense. The United States had already tested the world's first hydrogen bomb, called Mike, in 1952, and their biggest nuclear device, called Castle Bravo, in 1954. The Soviet Union was also working on developing a hydrogen bomb and managed to detonate its first true one in 1955. But that was just the beginning. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev was keen to show off the USSR's military prowess, so he ordered the creation of the most powerful bomb ever made. This project, codenamed Ivan, was a chilling testament to humankind's potential for destruction. The development of Tsar Bomba aimed to create an unprecedented display of military might that would reverberate across the international community. Fueled by ideological fervor and a desire to outpace the United States in the nuclear arms race, Khrushchev's decision to commission the creation of this colossal weapon underscored the lengths to which the superpowers were willing to go in their quest for supremacy. The Soviet Union poured an estimated $1.5 billion into the development of the Tsar Bomba. Soviet nuclear scientists spent hundreds of thousands of combined man-hours to create the bomb and had to make improvements in the fields of computer modeling, nuclear containment, radiation spread, and of course, nuclear physics. The result of their effort was the largest nuclear bomb ever developed. It was 8 meters long, had a diameter of about 2 meters, and it weighed roughly 25 tons. Its proportions made it very challenging to handle. It was so large that it couldn't be loaded on any plane that the Soviet Union had at that time. The Soviet Union had to modify an existing Tupolev 25 aircraft with a new suspension system, bomb bay, and engine. The plane's more powerful engines not only allowed it to take off with the massive weight of the ordnance, but also gave the aircraft's crew the opportunity to outrun the explosion from the atomic bomb, though planners only gave the crew a 50% chance of survival. Nonetheless, the freshly kitted Tu-95 was covered in a coat of anti-flash paint to reduce the effect of radiation and sent off. On October 30th, 1961, the Tu-95 started its journey from the Olenia airfield on the Kola Peninsula. Its pilot, Major Andrei Dunovtsev, climbed to 10 kilometers above the ground and flew toward the Matochkin Strait at Novaya Zemlya. At 11:32 Moscow time, the bomb exploded. It created a fireball about 8 kilometers wide, and the flash could be seen from 1,000 kilometers away. All buildings within 55 kilometers of the test site at Sukhoi Nos were completely destroyed. Windows within hundreds of kilometers were broken. The shockwave generated after the blast traveled 3 times around the Earth. Radio communication outages were also reported. One test witness felt the thermal effects at a distance of 170 miles, even with dark goggles. The intense heat from the detonation was capable of causing third-degree burns at a distance of 62 miles from ground zero. The shock wave was felt as far away as the Dixon settlement, located 430 miles away, and windows shattered at a distance of 560 miles. Windows even shattered as far away as Norway and Finland due to the atmospheric focus of the shockwave. Despite being an airburst detonated 13,000 feet above ground, Tsar Bomba's seismic magnitude was estimated at 5.25. After the Tsar Bomba had been tested in 1961, nuclear tests continued, and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev even ordered the detonation of another megaton bomb just a few months later, though this never happened. The following year, the testing reached its peak when a total of 79 nuclear bombs were detonated. However, efforts to end the atmospheric testing of nuclear weapons were also on the rise. 2 years later, the United States and the USSR signed the Limited Test Ban Treaty, which banned above-ground and underwater nuclear tests. The Limited Test Ban Treaty reflected growing international concerns about the dangers of nuclear weapons, brought in part by the close call of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the power of the Tsar Bomba. A high-speed hotline connecting the leaders of the Soviet and US governments is established to mitigate the risk of accidental warfare. The Soviet Union conducted its last nuclear test in 1990, the United States in 1992. 4 years later, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty banned nuclear weapons tests in all environments. What else do you know about the Tsar Bomba? Do you have any lingering questions about the weapons testing, development, or use? Leave your comments below, and as always, I will be responding to every one of them. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more of it, please like and subscribe.